They say the WNBA has never seen a star like Caitlin Clark. And now, the league doesn't seem to know what to do with her. 1 minute, she's the face of a revolution. Sold out arenas, record-breaking TV ratings, and the kind of cultural momentum women's basketball has waited decades for. The next, she's being ejected from a critical game, tossed out not for fighting, not for a flagrant foul, but for what many saw as nothing more than emotional frustration. No warning, no conversation, just a whistle, a finger to the tunnel, and chaos. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. And in that chaos, a spotlight. Because that moment, Clark walking off the court while stunned fans booed in disbelief, cracked something wide open. It wasn't just about one call. It wasn't just about one game. It was about the mounting pattern of disrespect, of silence, of a league seemingly unsure whether to protect its most bankable star or punish her for existing outside the old guard's comfort zone. Sophie Cunningham saw it. Lexie saw it. And they were done staying quiet. You could almost hear the lid blow off in the post-game interviews. Sophie, normally a calculated presence, didn't hold back. Her words were pointed. You can't market her face on every billboard, make it a headline for every promo, and then treat her like she's disposable on the court. That's not leadership. That's exploitation. Lexie Hull, known for being a steady presence in the locker room, echoed the frustration. We watch her get hit, pushed, grabbed, talked at all game long. And then the moment she reacts, she's the problem? That's not just wrong. That's dangerous. The fuse had officially been lit. And this wasn't just two teammates defending a friend. This was two veterans drawing a line in the sand, daring the league to answer for what's quickly spiraling into a full-on crisis. The ejection was a tipping point. But the pressure's been building all season. From hard fouls to subtle jabs and interviews, to viral clips of Clark getting shoulder-checked while referees look away like it's just another Tuesday. People have noticed. And yet, no fines, no statements, no league-wide reckoning. Until now, because the minute Sophie and Lexie spoke up, something shifted. The outrage wasn't just coming from fans anymore. It wasn't just a debate on Twitter or talk show segments dissecting highlight clips in slow motion. It was players from inside the league calling out the very system that's failing them. And when that happens, it gets real. It's no coincidence that this erupted around Caitlin. She isn't just a rookie sensation. She's the sun around which the entire current WNBA orbit spins. Ticket sales, jersey sales, viewership metrics, social media engagement, all of it has exploded since she stepped onto a professional court. She's not just part of the WNBA's momentum. She is the momentum. So when she's the one being targeted, fouled hard, baited, and then ejected, it sends a chilling message. Even the league's brightest star is disposable if she steps too far out of line. That's why Sophie's protest landed like a thunderclap, because this isn't just about Clark anymore. It's about the culture of the WNBA, a culture that for years has demanded toughness and silence in the same breath, that has often mistaken player protection for favoritism, that hasn't yet figured out how to embrace new energy without punishing the ones who bring it. Cunningham, in that moment, became the voice of every teammate who's watched Clark get shoulder-checked without a whistle, of every coach who's had to pull her aside and say, let it go, of every fan who's watched a 22-year-old phenom get treated like she's a threat just for being good and new and different. It was Cunningham who first called out the absurdity of the numbers. Clark had drawn 17% of the league's flagrant fouls, despite being a first-year player. If that happened in the NBA, Sophie said, there'd be investigations, full-on reports. Instead, we just shrug and call it rookie hazing. Nah, that's violence disguised as culture. It's a strong claim, and one that clearly struck a nerve, because suddenly the narrative shifted. What had been dismissed as tough defense was now under scrutiny. Slow-mo replays were getting rewatched. Journalists were pulling foul data. And Clark's treatment stopped being an isolated talking point. It became the conversation. Even fans who didn't follow the WNBA closely couldn't ignore the optics. The most talked about player in women's basketball history being penalized for what? Showing emotion, reacting to weeks of getting battered on the court. Meanwhile, the players initiating contact, often untouched. Undisciplined, the double standard was no longer subtle. It was blatant. Lexie Hull, not normally one to make headlines, summed it up best. We can't demand players bring personality, competitiveness, and passion, and then punish them for showing it. Caitlin wants to win, and she's being vilified for it. Her voice added another layer to the storm, because it's not just about fouls. It's about freedom. The freedom to be intense, to lead, to play hard without being labeled arrogant or entitled. Traits that male stars are praised for suddenly become problems when Clark exhibits them. The hypocrisy couldn't be more obvious. And so here we are, a league at a crossroads. Does the WNBA double down on discipline? Play the all players are equal card? Insist that Clark must simply adjust to the roughness of pro ball? Or does it pause and ask the bigger question? What kind of league are we building? Because Clark isn't going anywhere. And players like her, bold, loud, emotional, unapologetically great, are the future. If the league can't figure out how to protect them without coddling them, it risks driving away not just stars, but fans, sponsors, momentum. The stakes are high, and now that Cunningham and Hull have kicked open the door, they're not going to shut it. They put the league on notice. If you won't protect our stars, we will. If you won't say it publicly, we will. If you think we'll let one of the most important players in the sport get torn down because she's changing the game too fast so you keep up, think again. It's not about playing favorites. It's about protecting investment. If Caitlin Clark leaves this league, mentally, emotionally, or literally, it's not just Indiana that suffers. It's the whole WNBA. And let's not get it twisted. She could leave. There are other leagues, other offers, international opportunities, broadcasting, branding empires. Caitlin Clark doesn't need the WNBA. The WNBA needs her. And if the league doesn't figure that out soon, it might just watch the moment it's waited for, this cultural golden ticket, slip right through its fingers. For now, the backlash burns hot. Fans are organizing, hashtags are trending, and every post in the Fever draws thousands of comments demanding justice, accountability, and reform. But this moment won't last forever. The window for real change is now. Caitlin Clark didn't ask for this fight. She's just trying to play. But thanks to Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull, the WNBA now has no choice but to respond. Will it protect its stars, or will it protect its silence? One decision shapes the future. The other erases it. The air around the WNBA right now feels heavier than usual, not because of a scandal, not because of suspension or a league-wide strike, but because of something deeper, more human, a crossroads moment. One where the future of the league is being weighed in real time, not by lawyers or executives, but by players who are done playing nice. Caitlin Clark's ejection may have been the moment that lit the fuse, but the explosion? That's been building for weeks, months, even the under-the-surface resentment, the backhanded comments and pressers, the cold shoulders on court, and the repeated body checks that somehow never get called all adds up. And now, thanks to Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull, the league can't sweep it under the rug anymore. Because when two players from the same team, two seasoned veterans who've both seen the highs and lows of this league, step into the public eye and say out loud what everyone's been whispering, that's no longer drama. That's a reckoning. And here's the uncomfortable part. Caitlin Clark's treatment isn't happening in a vacuum. It's not just that she got ejected. It's that she got ejected after being targeted game after game, verbally, physically, emotionally. It's that she's become a lightning rod, not just for fan attention, but for peer resentment. Let's call it what it is. There's jealousy in the air, not the petty kind, but the kind born out of frustration. Because Caitlin came in hot. She didn't take years to warm up. She didn't wait her turn. She didn't play the slow climb game that so many veterans had to endure. She arrived and the cameras followed. The fans followed. The world followed. And that's hard for some to stomach. But none of that is her fault. She didn't write the headlines. She didn't schedule the ESPN interviews. She didn't price the jerseys or design the marketing campaigns. All she did was ball out in college, carry a program on her back, and bring an entirely new wave of viewership to a league that's long deserved more attention. And for that, she's being punished? That's the message Cunningham and Hull are refusing to tolerate, because they've watched her take it all. The hits, the noise, the pressure, and she's done it with a level of grace that very few rookies could even fake. But the ejection, that was the breaking point, not just for Caitlin, for everyone watching. The clip went viral within minutes. Fans were outraged. Analysts scrambled to replay the moment over and over again, trying to figure out what Clark even did to deserve the ejection. The answer? Nothing that's ever gotten a male star tossed. Nothing that warranted more than a warning, if that. And yet, off she went. And with her, the illusion that the league was ready to protect its stars, truly protect them, crumbled. You could hear in Sophie's voice when she stepped in front of the mic afterward. Tired, angry, sharpened like a blade. "We're not asking for favoritism," she said. "We're asking for fairness. There's a difference." Lexie Hull doubled down. "If we let this continue, what are we telling the next generation of players? That the moment you shine, you become a target? That success comes with a price tag of isolation. It's more than just sports at this point. It's principle. It's culture. It's about what the WNBA wants to be, and whether it has the courage to be something new. Because let's face it, the league wants the benefits of having Caitlin Clark. The ratings, the sold-out games, the boosted merch numbers, the mainstream headlines. But when it comes to protecting her, that part seems negotiable. And that's the problem. The league wants growth without discomfort, progress without accountability. But the truth is, if you want to elevate the game, you can't shrink from the work. You can't throw your biggest star into the spotlight and then ghost her when the lights get harsh. You have to build a league where excellence is protected, where players aren't penalized for being good, where rivalries exist without turning into witch hunts. Sophie and Lexie are forcing that conversation, not politely, not behind closed doors, out loud where it can't be ignored. And their timing couldn't be more critical. The league is growing. That part's undeniable. More fans, more coverage, more noise. But growth without structure collapses. And the WNBA right now is teetering. If it can't handle the pressure of its own expansion, if it can't adapt to the realities of superstardom, new media scrutiny, and changing dynamics, it risks imploding right as it's about to explode. So what needs to happen? First, accountability. The officiating has to be addressed. There's no way Clark should be absorbing flagrant fouls at the rate she is without some kind of action. Not a statement. Not a vague tweet. Action. Suspensions. Fines. Real deterrence for players who cross the line. Second, consistency. The rules need to apply to everyone. If a rookie gets tossed for clapping back, then so should the veterans who start the fire. If jawing is part of the game, fine. But then don't single out the one who responds. Third, leadership. Not just from the league office, but from players. Veterans need to check themselves. They need to ask why Clark's presence triggers them, and whether it's worth undermining the league's future just to prove a point. Because make no mistake, this is a future issue. Caitlin Clark isn't just a flash in the pan. She represents what women's basketball can be, what it should be. She's the bridge to a new generation, a new audience, a new level of mainstream legitimacy. Lose her, and you lose momentum you can't buy back. That's why Sophie's words mattered so much. Because they weren't just about Caitlin. They were about the direction this league is headed. And if the WNBA is smart, it'll listen. Not just to fans, not just to players, but to the warning underneath it all. This isn't about favoritism. It's about survival. Because stars don't just build leagues. They carry them. And if your brightest star walks off the court one more time, not by her own choice, but because the league refuses to stand behind her, don't be surprised when the crowd follows. And now, with the eyes of the basketball world locked in on the WNBA, the pressure is building in ways the league hasn't felt before. This isn't just a PR hiccup. It's a defining moment, one where the stakes extend beyond Caitlin Clark, beyond the Indiana Fever, beyond even the 2025 season. What's happening right now is about legacy, about credibility, about whether the WNBA has the backbone to protect its own evolution. Because the truth is, Caitlin Clark's rise wasn't subtle. It was a cultural event. She didn't just break records. She broke through. She brought people to women's basketball who had never watched a full game. She brought mainstream media coverage, corporate sponsorships. She made the fever appointment viewing and turned road games into sellouts. She made everything about this league bigger. But when something grows that fast, it reveals what wasn't built to handle the weight. In this case, it's the league's infrastructure of support, especially around how stars are treated. Clark came in hot, and instead of preparing to shield her from the inevitable backlash, the WNBA left her out there to navigate it alone. And now, the consequences are spilling out across the court, the locker room, and the league office. Her ejection wasn't an isolated moment. It was a symptom of a broader sickness, a resistance to change that the league can't afford to indulge anymore. Sophie Cunningham saw it. She felt it, and she said what too many others were too afraid to. This isn't okay anymore. When Sophie stepped up to the mic, she wasn't just speaking as a teammate. She was speaking as someone who's been in this league long enough to recognize patterns. She's seen rookies come and go. She knows what real basketball animosity looks like. She also knows what envy looks like when it hides behind the guise of hard play or veteran toughness. And Caitlin's been catching all of it. Every bump, every shove, every eye roll, every welcome to the league elbow. It's been piling on. And for weeks, Clark said nothing. She took it, kept her head down, tried to play through it. But now, she doesn't have to speak for herself anymore. Sophie and Lexie are doing for her. Lexie Hull made it clear. We don't protect stars in this league the way we should. And if we don't start, we're going to lose them. And that's the part the league still seems to be grappling with. Because there's a difference between treating all players equally and treating them all the same. Equality is great. But equity? That's what keeps a league healthy. And it's time to be real. Caitlin Clark needs more protection, not less. Because she's the lightning rod. The one drawing millions of eyeballs. The one dealing with more attention, more pressure, and yes, more targeted contact than anyone else in the league right now. That doesn't mean giving her favorable calls. It doesn't mean babying her. It means acknowledging reality and responding with the maturity of a league that wants to keep growing. And if that reality hurts some feelings, so be it. Because as Lexie and Sophie pointed out, this isn't just about Caitlin's feelings. It's about everyone's future. Let's talk legacy for a second. Every major sports league has had this moment. The NBA had it with Jordan. The NFL had it with Brady. Leagues reach a fork in the road where they realize our biggest star isn't just a player. They're a brand, a driver of business. And if they go, everything we built goes with them. The WNBA is at that fork now. Caitlin Clark isn't just a point guard. She's the economic engine of a movement. And while the idea of building a whole league around one person might make some uncomfortable, history says that's how leagues grow, around icons. The danger is pretending this moment doesn't matter, that it's just another technical, that she'll bounce back, that the fans will forget. But they won't. They see what's happening. They see the bruises, the ejection, the silence from the league, the weird tension in post-game handshakes, the awkward smirks from opposing benches. They also see who's defending her. That matters too, because in the middle of all this noise, something else is happening. Something quiet but powerful. A realignment. Sophie and Lexie's public support didn't just make headlines. It drew lines. It let fans know who's standing for something bigger than just team loyalty. It showed them which players get it. That you can support a teammate without tearing down others. That standing up for someone doesn't mean sitting on your own ego. This kind of advocacy, it doesn't go unnoticed. Fans are rallying behind them. Younger players are watching. And other teams, whether they admit it or not, are reevaluating how they've been treating Clark. Because now there's a cost to it. A social cost. A branding cost. And that's how change starts. Not always through fines or suspensions or league memos, but through players changing the culture. Through voices that refuse to stay quiet. So where does this go now? The ball's in the WNBA's court, literally and figuratively. The league can keep acting like this is just part of the game, or it can acknowledge that the game is changing, that the old playbook won't work anymore, that you can't invite millions of new fans in, introduce them to their new favorite player, and then expect them to accept her being treated like a villain. You can't grow the league by sidelining the reason people started watching in the first place. So what needs to happen? It starts with accountability, not just for the players throwing elbows, but for the league offices that have been too quiet. Issue statements. Clarify standards. Make it clear that rough play isn't toughness. It's reckless. That targeting isn't rivalry. It's cowardice. Then comes protection. Not bubble wrapping Clark, but being proactive, reviewing flagrant foul data, talking to refs, making it clear that Caitlin's presence doesn't mean play her differently. It means play her fairly. And finally, support publicly, loudly, consistently, because whether the league admits it or not, Caitlin Clark is not just the most visible player right now. She's also the most vulnerable. She's the one under the most scrutiny, the most pressure, the most weight. So no, she shouldn't have to carry the league and carry the abuse. That's why voices like Sophie Cunningham's matter. Because in a time where silence has become a habit, speaking up is an act of leadership, not for clout, not for drama, but for change. And maybe this is the wake-up call the league needed. Maybe this is how a culture starts to shift, not overnight, but publicly, loudly, and irreversibly. Because the WNBA can't go back now. Not after this. Not after that ejection. Not after those post-game interviews. Not after the world saw a 22-year-old walk off court, stunned, while the league she's carried on her back looked the other way. Sophie and Lexie won't let that slide. And neither should we.